Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm so excited about today's episode because the writer you're going to meet, he is coming in from Japan, not coming in, but she is being recorded from Japan. And we're say hello to Diane Nakatomo. Did I say that right?
Nagatomo.
Nagatomo. Diane Nagatomo. Diane, so tell us where you are in Japan.
Well, I'm living in Chiba, which is a suburb of Tokyo, and it's close to the airport. So if you come to visit Japan, you'll come, land pretty near where I am. And I work in Tokyo, so it's just a commuting distance from Tokyo.
So that's exciting. So it's 6:30. Is it tomorrow? Is it Saturday, 6:30 a.m. Saturday?
Yes, yes, it's Saturday morning
Yes.
here.
Saturday morning, and we're recording in Eastern time, so it's 4:48 Eastern time. So this is all very cool. Our math worked, and we're so glad that you're here, and we're so glad that Diane is here. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She has written over 20 textbooks in her life, and she has two, and she's still writing them. And she has two academic books that have been published. And then she decided to write a novel. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I want to find out how she got there. She is the name of her novel, and it's a literary romance, and it's called The Butterfly Cafe, and it's received dozens of. Oh, great. Shut up! Hold it up! Hold it up! It's beautiful. Look at that Butterfly Cafe, and it has received some excellent reviews, including captivating, big-hearted novel, tender story of second chances the myriad ways, and I love this line, the myriad ways the past shapes, it does not define us. That is such a truism that, so many things that happen to us in our lives do shape us. It's all in there. They don't have to define us or hold us back or anything. So first of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
the publication of your debut novel. She's not a debut author, she's a debut novelist. And that's such an exciting accomplishment. But before we dive into the book, tell us a little bit about your writing journey. How did you go from one to the other?
I've been a big writer my whole life, but basically like journals and letters. And in the early 80s, I was asked to contribute short articles to a newspaper called the Mainichi Weekly, and I started doing that. And then I moved into textbook writing, and um, as an academic in a university, I've always had to write academic papers and do that because that's how you're evaluated. So I wrote a lot of things that I wasn't particularly interested in. And then I started doing my doctoral research. And from that, I became interested in identity and people's narratives and the stories that people tell and analyzing them. So my two academic books are about um, women's lives mainly, and how their lives impact their teaching and their beliefs about teaching. So I've always been a big reader of fiction. And I don't think it was such a difficult crossover to talk about and analyze women's lives in an academic fashion to creating a whole made up story about someone that, then I can just say whatever I want and make up things, which is fun.
Notes needed. No references needed.
Right.
So that's excellent. So tell us about the Butterfly Cafe.
Well, it's the story of an American woman married to a Japanese man. And then when I get this far, people say, "Oh, it's autobiographical," because my husband is Japanese. I say, "No, no, no, it's not autobiographical. She's married to a really horrible guy." And they're like, "Oh, autobiographical." I'm like, "No, no, no," but I kill him off in the first chapter. And so he's gone. He gets his just desserts in the first chapter. And it's basically about how she gets her life back on track after he's dead. She discovers that their marriage was built on a lot of lies and deceit, and his gambling debts. But with the help of her old friends and new friends she makes when she surprisingly inherits a dilapidated cafe, she gets her life back in order. And it's a story about family and second chances and so on in the Japanese context. It's not a book about Japan, but it's a book about people who happen to live in Japan.
Yeah. So is it a romance?
There's a romantic element to it, yes. um,
Yeah, I just wondered
so
because it's
yeah,
that's how it was listed when I
yeah.
was researching as a romance. And I have a book that's not a romance at all, and I got a prize for romantic fiction just because there was love and a little sex in the book, you know.
Well, that's it. Usually like a romance novel, when I was thinking of writing a novel, and because I love books, I bought all these books on how to do it. And they're like, okay, the romantic interest has to appear at 10% into the story. And then these things happen if you're following a kind of typical
Formula.
romance format. And that's not it. The romance is there. Like in life, we do have romantic interests and we do fall in love with people. But I would say the story is more about family and the meaning of family and pulling yourself together.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
pulling yourself
I
together so you can
wouldn't
make
call it
it.
a romance. And I
Yeah.
think, because a lot of men have been reading my book, and I think they might be put off if it was completely a romance. And I've been getting good reviews from other male teachers that I know in Japan. So I think it's not exactly a romance, although there's romance in it. Everybody loves a
There's
little
romance
romance.
in it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I make sure there's romance in all of my books.
Yeah,
And they're not romance novels. So yes, I'm with
exactly.
you on that. So when you think about what's the name of your protagonist? What's her name?
Jesse
Jessie.
Yamada.
So when you think about Jessie, what are some of the things that you really love about her?
Well, I love that she sacrificed a lot for her daughter. She stayed in this bad marriage and she was making plans to leave, but she was afraid she might lose custody of her daughter. I mean, and the marriage was bad, but it wasn't like violently bad or anything
Mhm.
that would require immediate action. But she knew she didn't want to live that way. And she married the guy on kind of a whim. Um, and marry in haste, repentant leisure kind of thing my grandmother would have said. And so that she's doing everything she can to keep her family together. And then, through twists and turns in the novel, even more things happen. And somehow by the end of the book, her family has expanded to 4 kids. So she ends up with 4 kids instead of just the one that she starts off with. Excuse me, I don't
Hmm.
want to give away any more
I was gonna
details.
say we'll have to read it to find
Yeah.
out how that happens. No, I meant to ask you now, is the novel going to be translated into Japanese?
I I don't know, but I don't think so. I mean, somebody would have to want to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the novel would be appealing to the Japanese readership, although I know that I just received word a couple days ago that a friend of mine who's teaching English privately, his group of ladies that he's teaching, I think retired women, they've decided to read the book and discuss it in one of their classes. But I don't think the novel itself, the story would be that appealing to
Would lend itself
Japanese,
that
in
easily.
Japanese. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you'll have to wait and see what the ladies in the book club have to
Maybe they'll
say.
translate it.
So who knows? There might be something there. Um, are you working on anything new now?
I have a new novel that will be published next November by Black Rose Writing. And it's the story of a Japanese girl who suddenly inherits two Nebraska farms from her father that she hasn't seen since she was 2 years old. She thought
Hmm.
he had abandoned her, and her mother died when she was little, so she was raised by her grandparents on a tea farm. And she always thought the father had abandoned the family and that she was alone, but through, you know, a twist of fate, he finds out where she is, but he dies before he has a chance to actually meet her. So she goes to Nebraska, which is where my family roots are from, and she stays there for she has to stay there for a year. And that story has more of a romantic element to it than the Butterfly Cafe. I would call that more of
Hmm.
a romance than the Butterfly
Oh,
Cafe.
sounds intriguing. November. We'll have to look up for that
I'm
one.
very
Yes.
excited about that.
So when you think about your life as an author, it could be in any your academic life as an author, your textbook life as an author, your essays, your novels, your two novels. Is there any book or writer that you feel had a really big influence on you?
Um, that I was thinking about that, and I couldn't come up with one right away. And I know that when the interview is over, then I'll be like, oh yeah, that one or that one. I mean, I've read so many books, and I get inspired by so many people, that I would say that, some of the people I know in Japan who are living in Japan and who become writers, I would say that I've gotten a lot of inspiration from them and also encouragement because it's kind of a small world here. People like Suzanne Kamata, who's based in Shikoku, she's quite a prolific writer and she's been writing a lot of things. And Karen Anton Hill, who has been in Japan since the 70s, she's a prolific writer. So I get a lot of like inspiration from people like that as role models. Um, but as a novel or something, I would say they've all inspired me, to want to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
a story. And I remember years and years ago, I read The Notebook,
Mm,
which, wrote that one. And I thought,
mm.
oh, I could write better than that. So I tried, and, like many people do. And then I thought, oh, God, no, I can't. There's some
It's
kind of
hard.
magic yeah, there's some kind of magic in simple stories. It doesn't have to be James Michener or, um, very,
Leon Uris or
literary writers. Even a simple story is difficult to tell. And I learned that um, by, dabbling in fiction.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been
And
like,
it's so true that all of us as writers, there's so many books that influence us, so many, because every time we read, we're learning. Every time we pick up
exactly.
a book, we're absorbing and learning. It's one of those wonderful things that doing something you love also helps infuse doing something else you love. So I totally, totally get that. So, do you have any books that you should recommend right now that you've recently read that our audience might be interested in?
Well, of course, there's your book, um, Amazing Grace. Was that
True Grace.
True, True Grace? I just
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. That was just, such a page turner. I just finished reading yesterday another Black Rose Writers book, Lena Gibson's. Um, I forget the whole title, Train Hoppers. It's coming out in January. I couldn't put it down. I could barely get anything done the entire day because I just was turning page after page. She's got a real way of keeping the story going and keeping the reader in the story. So that's the one I read yesterday. And I'm
Oh,
also reading. I read like 3 books at a time. I'm reading Lisa C's Lady Tan's Circle of Women, which is about China, and I'm really enjoying that. So, and then
yeah.
like next week I'll forget the books that I've read because I have to. My brain makes room for new ones.
So you say you can read 3 books at a time. Can you write more than one book at a time?
Um, well, I've been doing it this year with this writing textbook that is a second edition of one that I wrote in 2000, and the publisher wanted to reissue it. And so I've been having to work on that at the same time as the next novel. And that's a little bit tricky because, I have to really simplify every sentence because it's for beginners. So it's filled with simple sentences, and I have to really limit the vocabulary and that kind of thing. So I have to have a mind switch when I'm writing textbook materials.
I'm
And if I'm
going
writing an
to.
academic paper, then I have to like make the language quite formal and not use contractions.
Mm,
And then when you're writing fiction, you have to make sure you use contractions, especially in dialogue. Otherwise, the people sound strange.
sound very strange. Yes.
So it's a little bit
You have to
schizophrenic
switch.
with the writing.
Yeah, that is tricky. How much time do you spend if you read three books at a time? How much time do you spend every day writing, or kind of what's your do you set goals or a certain number of pages or?
No, I don't. I'm still working, so I'm teaching 9 classes a week, even though I'm officially retired. Um, so I read a lot because of the commute. I have to commute like a couple hours a day. Um, and so I've got plenty of time for reading. The writing, it it comes and it goes. I don't set daily goals for it. Um,
Just as the
but
muse
there'll be
hits
days
you.
that, and I'm an early riser. I get up, like at 4 or 5 and take care of things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have a one woman I interviewed. She's a wonderful a writer, and she said that, and she writes for a living, not fiction. She writes other kinds of things for a living. But she said she gets up really early so she can save her best words for her novels. The notion that that she doesn't want to use up all her best words on something else, and then there's nothing left for her novels. So I thought that
So
was a
she
cool
writes her fiction in the morning, first thing. Yeah, I'm at my
first thing.
best first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
downhill afternoon.
So if folks, now you've totally got everybody intrigued, and they all want to read your book, and they all want to know about when the next one is coming out and how your progress is going. How can our audience find you?
Well, I don't have a homepage yet. Um, I'm on Facebook under Diane Hawley Nagatomo, with my author page. You can Google the name and various things will come up. My books are listed on Amazon, Amazon UK, Amazon US, and Amazon Japan. So I'm pretty easy to find because my name is extremely unusual. I may be the only person in the world with this name.
Now you gave your full name that you write under, but we don't see that. So could you just say your full name that you write under so everybody could
Yeah.
hear it?
Diane Hawley Nagatomo.
And Holly is Hawley.
That's right.
Right. So please look for her, follow her, encourage her to get her homepage going when you write her. Say, let her know that you would love it to visit her website and see all the things that she's doing and all the things that are going on. I hope that you are already following me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube and oh, and X, though I don't know how long I'm going to stay there. So we'll see. Until next time, thank you so much for being with us, and I'll see you next week on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thank you, everybody. Have a great, great week.
Thank you.